Hello, everyone. It's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with Ryan's Forehead. And today we are going to be doing the Two Guys Talking Podcast, episode 7. The Two Guys Talking Podcast is essentially a podcast where Ryan and I just kind of talk about whatever. It's just like a phone call. Sorry that I'm starting this podcast episode like 20 minutes later than normal. I did a spell break stream where someone popped onto the stream and they were talking about the MCU and whether or not the MCU is fake diversity. So they were talking about how like War Machine and Falcon are like token characters and how the MCU doesn't really know how to like manage black characters. And we had like a pretty long debate about that. So I apologize for the delay. That might mean that the podcast episode may be a little bit shorter than normal. But let's hop right into it. Yo, Ryan, you're looking a little sleepy. I noticed that you're like all blanketed up. You got the blanket on. You're like horizontal as fuck. Can only see like half your face. You're kind of doing this right now. Are you? Did I interrupt you going to bed? Did I like?
No, I was watching Naruto.
Oh, you're watching Naruto. Speaking of Naruto, last episode was like all about Naruto stuff. We went hard on the Naruto.
It's when Guy and Kakashi joined the Baiju fight.
Let's see. Are you planning on reading any more Savage Dragon this week? You know? Sounds like it might be a possibility. Excuse me. Speaking of comics, what DC stuff comes out this week? I actually haven't, checked. I just had something to drink like right before the call. I apologize for all the burping. Gas. Let's see. Batman number 100 comes out tomorrow. That sounds weird, actually. Because Detective Comics had its like 1000th issue recently. And The Flash actually recently had like a 100 issue run or whatever. So maybe that isn't weird. Maybe a lot of books are about to have like their 100th issue drop, and I just don't know. Batman the Animated Series, the Phantom City Creative Collection is coming out. I don't know what the hell that is. I've never heard of that. Deceased has a new book that's coming out. I haven't been following that. That's like DC's like zombie thing that they've been doing. Far Sector, issue number 8's coming out. Far Sector is about like a female Earth Green Lantern, because of course we have to have another Earth Green Lantern, who's on an alien planet where people don't feel emotions, and there's some like weird corruption thing going on. So it's more like a societal intrigue kind of Green Lantern story. You may or may not like that. I feel like that might be up your alley, because I know you like Star Trek stuff where it's like a sci-fi thematic set piece, but is talking more about like bigger like human issues, like philosophical and like political stuff. I feel like that's what Far Sector's going for. I think that's like the idea. So if you like that, you might want to hit up Far Sector. Might be the Green Lantern book for you. Let's see. We got Justice League number 54. That's going to be coming out this week, and it's a death metal tie-in. But it looks like they have Starfire with a mohawk. Have you ever seen that before, Ryan?
Yeah, it's like She-Dragon.
Well, I've never seen that before. Like,
No, I
actually,
haven't seen that before.
yeah.
But just imagine She-Dragon but orange, and that should get you most of the way.
Well, She-Dragon has a fin. It's not like hair on her head.
She has a mohawk imitation of a fan.
Oh.
Because she doesn't actually have a fin.
So if she cut her hair off, it would just be like a bald head female dragon?
She used to have a bunch of long hair, but then it got all fucked up, and then so she like changed it to like a fin imitation hairstyle.
Interesting. See, the thing about Savage Dragon is that I've been reading it backwards and reading it from the beginning. So Ryan knows a whole bunch of stuff about early Savage Dragon that I don't know anything about. And I know a whole bunch of stuff about like later Savage Dragon that Ryan doesn't know anything about. And
Yeah, like Ricochet being pregnant. The maybe.
I missed the last thing you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You got your eyes rolling back and shit, going to sleep. And then there's this like middle nebulous lore of Savage Dragon that like neither Ryan or I know because neither of us have read it yet. Um, let's see. So Justice League number 54, Doom Metal Part 2 of 5 storms the stage in this. Oh, Part 2 of 5 storms the stage in this essential Dark Knight's death metal tie-in. Essential tie-ins are dumb. Real quick before I read anything else about the description. I feel like if your tie-in book is essential, meaning I have to read it in order to understand an event that's going on, that like it shouldn't be a tie-in. It should just be like a part of the main story. I'm pretty sure Dark Knight's death metal is only like 6 issues long, but they're saying that the Justice League tie-in Doom Metal is 5 issues. So does that mean Death Metal is really like 11 issues if all the Doom Metal books are essential? Plus, there are other tie-ins that feel like they're essential too, to where it's like just don't make them tie-ins then. Just make all of them issues of Death Metal. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan? Do you feel like they just shouldn't make them tie-ins if they're essential?
Nah, make it more complicated. That's always the best route.
I suppose so. So let me continue with the description for Justice League 54. It's the Titans reunion you've been clamoring for when Starfire and Cyborg join Nightwing in this twisted Justice League. So I'm going to take another pause right there. Starfire and Cyborg have been in Justice League Odyssey, which is like the space Justice League team, and they've been in this like other galaxy that's like really hard to enter and exit, and it's filled with all these planets that have been lost but were recently
Lost Galaxy.
this is like the Power Rangers thing. It is kind of is like that. Like essentially what happened is that there were all these worlds that were being locked away, and then during the event Justice League No Justice, the worlds were all unleashed into like the same like sector of space. And Jessica Cruz became like the Green Lantern of that sector. Cyborg and Starfire end up getting stuck in the sector with her, along with like Azrael, and it's revealed that they're all like worshipped as gods in the sector, and that there are these weird like mythological stories based around each of them in different areas. So there are planets that are like, we have worshipped Cyborg for like centuries, even though Cyborg hasn't like existed for that long. Like they're the prophetic gods of these worlds. I read a little bit of Justice League Odyssey when it was first coming out, and I kind of liked it, but I fell behind on it a little bit. Beth, back when Beth and I were dating, she was reading some Justice League Odyssey because she really likes Jessica Cruz, and she got into it. But I guess it's weird for me to hear that Starfire and Cyborg are now on Earth, I guess. Because when did they get back? Does that mean that Justice League Odyssey stuff isn't happening anymore? They're just like, did that story end? Like, does it make sense for them to be back on Earth, or are they just back on Earth for like this weird tie-in, and then later they're gonna be back in space like nothing happened? You know what I mean? I would have to see like where they were in Odyssey for me to make sense of why they'd be on Earth. Maybe that'll be explained in the issue. Who knows? Also, Darkseid was a really big part of Justice League Odyssey. He was like a good guy for a little bit, and then later they were like, actually, he was a bad guy the whole time. And I think he'd even taken over Cyborg. Like, there are all these plot points about Odyssey that I don't really know whether or not they got resolved that make the idea of having Cyborg and Starfire on Earth for Justice League just not make a lot of sense. But I don't know. Maybe it's explained. Maybe if I was caught up on Odyssey, none of this would be confusing. Let's continue on. The team is hell-bent for Brimstone Bay to free the Legion of Doom. But what horrors and desires will the Valley of Star Rose reveal to them? And who or what is the villain named Mindhunter? So it sounds like there's going to be like a new villain that gets introduced. So that could be cool. Mindhunter sounds like it'll probably be like a psychic based villain. Maybe they'll be connected to the psychic force or whatever. I don't think it's called the psychic force. It might be called the mind force, because you have like the speed force, the strength force, the still force, and whatever the psychic force is. I don't remember what it's called, but maybe that's what Mindhunter ties into. Also, the Valley of Star Rose sounds really interesting. It was revealed that Jarro, who's like a little Starro that's Batman's sidekick, he actually has a little Robin costume. They've revealed that Jarro is like the most powerful psychic or whatever. So a whole Valley of Starros sounds like it would be like an interesting psychic obstacle to have to overcome. Also, as was mentioned in that description, they're trying to free the Legion of Doom. The big plan right now is for all the heroes and all the villains to team up to stop Perpetua from destroying the multiverse. This might actually be like a pretty interesting story, this Doom Metal thing that's going on in Justice League. I say that because in Dark Knight's Metal, the prequel to Dark Knight's Death Metal, there was a Nightwing side story in that too, where they had to face off against Batman's greatest villains that had taken over Gotham using Nth Metal cards provided by the Batman Who Laughs. And Nth Metal cards essentially allow you to manipulate reality. So each Batman villain had their own section of Gotham where they were God. Like where like if they willed something to happen, it just happened. So you got to see how each of Batman's villains would like reshape the world. I actually remember really liking that story. And that was another Nightwing focused story. Though technically I would argue it was more of a Damian focused story, but whatever. I think if this is trying to be something similar to that, it might be good, but I may not be as interested without like all the reality manipulation stuff that was in the other story. Because I think that was part of what made that interesting. Also, this is written by Joshua Williamson. Joshua Williamson just recently finished doing a Flash run. Like I said, he had finished doing like I think like a 100 issue Flash run or like a 101 issue Flash run. So that's cool. It's cool to see like what he's doing post that. This is a 32-page comic. That's pretty thicky, and it's $1 more than what a normal comic cost. So a normal comic is like $2.99. It's like $3, and it's a 22-page affair. This is a $4 comic, and it's a 32-page affair. So 10 more pages for one more dollar. That's interesting. That is 10 more pages for $1 because it makes it feel like a 10-page comic should be worth $1. Something to think about, I guess. Let's see. So that's the Justice League book that's coming out this week. All that I just talked about was just talking about like one book. There's a Swamp Thing 48-page giant that's like a Halloween special. I don't care, but I just wanted to point that out for anyone who gets really hyped for Halloween stuff and they want something to read that'll put them in like the Halloween spirit. Though I will say, the current Dark Knight's Death Metal event seems perfectly fine for Halloween because you're gonna see like the dark multiverse versions of all your favorite characters, and that kind of will give you the idea of like a dark and ghoulish version of the DC universe. So, like if you already want to get like your spook on, you can kind of do that with death metal already. Let's see. They have a Super Sons book that's coming out, but it's like one of the like smaller kid books. I don't know which imprint it is because DC has an imprint for like little kids, and then they have an imprint for like young adult books. And the Super Sons book that's currently being published is in one of those imprints. So it's not like in main continuity. Well, actually, I can't say that because everything's canon and everything is. So the Super Sons book is on its own world, I guess. Yeah, they really have made it where you can't like say that stuff isn't canon anymore, which is fair. There's a new issue of Young Justice coming out. Young Justice number 19. I think the last time a Young Justice book came out, I skimmed it. I didn't actually read it. I think the reason why I skimmed it was because I just wasn't particularly interested, I guess, in what they had to offer. Sucks to suck. But it seemed like a story that was very like talky, that particular Young Justice book. But it also seemed like a story that was heavily focused on all the Young Justice characters getting to talk to their mentors, I guess. So you got to see like Impulse talk to Flash and like Superboy talk to Superman. Like there was a reason why the issue was very talky, but I wasn't in the mood for a slow paced comic at the time. So let's check out Young Justice number 19, its description. Wonder Girl calls Young Justice together to help her with a family problem. Seems the pantheon of Greek gods is having a hard time with some of Cassie's choices. She's taking a stand to change rules as old as the heavens, and she's going to need her team by her side to do it. So it sounds like a Wonder Girl centric story, which isn't bad, I guess. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I guess I'd be interested in maybe checking it out. Hopefully it's not super talky, but even that description sounds talky. See, the issue is that Brian Michael Bendis loves to make like talky comic books where barely anything happens and people just talk about stuff the whole time. Um, so if Wonder Girl just kind of debates with the gods throughout the book and the Young Justice characters are just in the background, unless that debate has like groundbreaking changes in the DC universe and it changes the way that like the gods interact with the worlds forever, then I don't really care. It almost sounds like it'd be a little bit skippable. Um, Maybe Cassie's powers get stripped away or something. That could be interesting. Like if the gods disagree with what she's trying to do and then they depower her or take away her weapons and she has to try to be Wonder Girl but without like the abilities that are normally associated with Wonder Girl, that could potentially be cool. What are your thoughts on that? Like the idea that this story could lead into like a depowered Wonder Girl story or arc. Is Ryan truly asleep?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Are you working on it? Are you like I'm trying to get there?
Maybe.
Maybe. Let's see. So we looked at some DC books. Now I'm gonna check out some Marvel books. What's out from Marvel? I feel weird about like the Star Wars books. My dad is like really big into like Star Wars Marvel comics. And I heard a description for a Star Wars book recently that kind of got me interested. The reason why is because it seems like they're trying to incorporate some of the lore that's been established in the new movies, but into like older Star Wars continuity to where it feels like less of like an ass pull kind of thing. Um, and I'm kind of interested in that. I'm kind of interested in how they like incorporate those lore elements to make it seem more like they were always there, kind of thing. It looks like we have Strange Academy number 3 coming out from Marvel. So, in case you guys aren't familiar with Strange Academy, it's essentially Marvel going, what if we did the X-Men again? But instead of mutants, it's like magic users. But imagine like you don't have to learn how to use magic. Imagine you can just be born and then around the time of puberty, you just suddenly start developing magic powers. So people just treat these people who like suddenly gain magical abilities the same way that they treat mutants. I don't know how I feel about Strange Academy as a concept because it kind of makes sense because of the fact of, well, it's weird to say because of the fact of, but like the concept of like a witch hunt. It would be like, what if people still kind of did the witch hunt stuff, but there were actual people with magic abilities that you could call witches and then like go after? Because the academy is supposed to be like a safe haven for all these like magical teenagers or whatever, so that they're not like hunted and like torn away from their families and stuff like that. And also a place for them to learn how to like foster their magical abilities and learn how to use them better. So in that respect, I feel like it kind of works a little bit better than like the X-Men mutant thing because it seems like it's more based on a real thing. Um, but at the same time, it feels like they're retreading stuff. It seems weird that like these concepts weren't introduced to us at any earlier point, like the concept of like magical discrimination in the Marvel universe. It feels very self-contained. Like I don't know of any other Marvel books that are really focusing on all these magical teenagers that are popping up. Um, and I guess it kind of helps make the X-Men not feel like an isolated case. Because a lot of people criticize the discrimination against mutants as not making sense. Because everyone's fine with the Fantastic Four, everyone's fine with like the Avengers and stuff like that. So why would you discriminate against mutants who just seem like superpowered people like everybody else? And if you introduce that people also discriminate against like magical people, at least now it's like a little bit more consistent, but it's still weird because it sounds like if your powers aren't magic based and they're not mutant based, people are fine with it. But if you have like mutant or magic based powers, or God forbid both, it seems like there are tons of people who just want to kill you just for who you are. So that's kind of weird, I will say. But I don't know. I read the first issue of Strange Academy. I didn't even know that an issue two was out, let alone that there's an issue three. Since there are so few issues of Strange Academy, I might just try and get caught up on Strange Academy. Let's see. I'm trying to see if any of these other books look interesting at all. I don't know. There's a Immortal Hulk book, Immortal Hulk: The Threshing Place #1. Immortal Hulk, when I was reading it, was pretty good. I fell off of it at a certain point. I don't think it was due to the quality of the book necessarily, but more just distracted by other stuff. So if this is just as good as like any other Immortal Hulk book, Immortal Hulk: The Threshing Place is probably like a solid thing to read. Avengers #36, The Age of Khonshu Part 4. So I think I read the beginning of The Age of Khonshu. Essentially, Moon Knight has like gone rogue and he's stolen like everybody's powers. So he stole Ghost Rider's car and he stole like the Iron Fist away from like Danny Rand and stuff like that. So you have like this superpowered Moon Knight who's stronger than like we've ever seen Moon Knight before, and he's essentially like going against everybody else in his pursuit to like do the duty of Khonshu, the moon god. So I remember really liking part one of like Age of Khonshu. So I might just go back and read like Avengers 32 all the way back up to 36 so that I can get like the full story again and like follow what's going on. That seemed like legitimately interesting out of everything else that I've been looking at. We got X Factor #4. The X-Men stuff is so obtuse. So Jonathan Hickman essentially like redid like the X-Men. The X-Men now have like a ton of lore. There's like a fresh starting place for new readers to jump in. They now have like their mutant island nation that's alive that you can access through portals that are around the world and even in other dimensions and on the moon and shit like that. Um, but it seems like it went from an easy place for people to jump in on, where it's like, hey, now there's like a cool starting place for you to read X-Men books, to, well, now you're going to be lost because there are just so many X-Men books. So you have like the Marauders, and you have X of Swords. Is X of Swords or something? I think X of Swords is like an event. So never mind, you don't have X of Swords. You have like the Marauders, you have X Factor, you have X-Men, you have Excalibur, you have all these like different X-Men books that are all a part of this like greater X-Men story. And technically you can just pick one and then just read that one. But if you want to know everything that's going on with the X-Men in the Marvel Universe, then you kind of have to do more than that. You have to read like all the different X books if you want to keep up with all the goings on of the X-Men. Um, and I feel like the dilution of the X-Men, like the fact that there's like so much X-Men content, has made me kind of not want to read it as much. I was liking Excalibur though. Excalibur was like one of my favorites because I feel like mixing mutants and magic was a cool idea, and it kind of reminded me of Strange Academy. How Strange Academy is treating magic users like they're mutants, and now in Excalibur we have mutants that are magic users. Excuse me. Ryan's like, the podcast is called Two Guys Talking, but the actual podcast is just one guy talking. Now, I honestly can't tell if Ryan is frozen, like if like his connection has completely like frozen up, or if he's so dead ass asleep that just all of reality has stopped moving. The call failed. He might be asleep. This seems like it'll probably just be like a really short episode because it's just really me talking. I could just keep talking, have a very misleading ass title, two guys talking, but it's just me. Actually, the thumbnail becomes more authentic because it's more accurate to what's actually going on. I could just keep talking. I'm not sure if I should. I noticed that the Fantastic Four comic that's coming out, Fantastic Four number 24, I think all these books on the Marvel page are already out. Fantastic Four number 24 has the Nexus War banner, which has to do with like the Marvel Fortnite crossover, which makes me curious to see if this is like a part of that crossover. So let me read the description. Yeah, this is already out. It came out on September 30th. So the description is, hey, remember that time Iceman replaced the Human Torch as a member of the Fantastic Four? No? Well, Johnny Storm sure remembers, and now it's time to let everybody else in on the secret of the Fantastic Four story we were never supposed to talk about. Interesting. So it's a Fantastic Four story where Iceman replaces the Human Torch. Oh, if you read the banner, it actually says that there's a special bonus story that's like a crossover story between the Fantastic Four and Thor. So, hey, that's interesting. Yo, did I like vanish in the like viewfinder or whatever? Or have I just not been on screen to begin with? The world may never know. Okay. So I could probably end the podcast here for now. We almost have like a straight 30 minutes of content. I just would like to thank you all for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button. Favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. If you guys want to check out my comic that I recently published to Kindle Direct Publishing, then feel free to go to Amazon and type in Rift ampersand tone, that's RIFT ampersand tone, TONE, issue 1. I've been able to find it easily by typing in Rift and Tone comic or Rift and Tone superhero. It's my first digital comic that I've ever published, where it's just like a straight up like comic book with like illustrated panels and caption boxes and stuff like that. So if you guys want to check that out, truly appreciate it. You can actually read it for free if you have Kindle Unlimited, so I highly recommend that. Otherwise, the book is $2.99. It's a 16-panel comic, so it's like 8 pages, 2 panels per page. It's fairly short. The art is very amateur hour. It's like stick people or whatever. But if you want to see like my first attempt at trying to do a digital comic, and if you want to support that and see future projects like that, then definitely feel free to pick up Rift and Tone on the Amazon store. Anyways, thank you all once again. This is your host, your friend, your boy, here with Ryan, who's asleep, logging out. Peace. Chickadee guy.